The UK, under Keir Starmer's Labour Party, has taken a number of steps against Israel, from reinstating funding for UNRWA to withdrawing its objections to the ICC's request for arrest warrants against Israeli officials, and now possibly ceasing weapons sales to Israel. Joining us to discuss this policy shift and its impact on UK-Israel relations is writer and political commentator Adam Schwarz. Thank you for joining us.
Good to be with you.
So let's start with the potential suspension of arms sales. I mean, Jerusalem is reportedly very concerned over this move. How much of an effect will it have on Israel and on the war effort?
Well, I think it's worth noting, just to begin, that of course the UK government doesn't directly sell weapons to Israel, but of course it approves export licenses, which have been quite significant since 2015. It had about £500 million worth of exports. But as you've mentioned, Foreign Secretary David Lammy has ordered a review into the use of British weapons in Gaza by Israel, and particularly due to its kind of incompatibility with international law. So we'd expect the kind of outcome of that review and a decision really by the end of the summer. But in terms of the impact that it would have on Israel's war effort and its capabilities, that really does largely depend on the kind of halt that the UK would impose on weapons. So, for example, David Lammy did mention the fact that actually this would largely be related, if it happened, due to or would largely affect offensive weapons rather than defensive weapons. But I would say that if you look at the kind of weapons that are supplied to Israel from the UK, there's really nothing that's particularly kind of irreplaceable. And really, Israel, with time, could largely replace a lot of it through other sources, particularly from the US, I would say. I would say the primary impact of this would kind of be diplomatic. So, for example, I would say that the main impact would actually be that it would largely legitimize the conditioning of aid to Israel to try to influence Israeli policy in some way. So, of course, we could see other Western allies take the same approach, which wouldn't be a particularly kind of unusual approach in terms of conditioning aid on policy. But I would say that would be the primary concern of the Israeli government at this time.
Mm-hmm. And the new Labour Party has also reinstated funding for UNRWA and withdrawn its objections to the ICC. It seems to have sort of come in and flipped British foreign policy with regards to Israel on its head in many regards. Is the Labour Party under Keir Starmer hostile to Israel, do you think?
I wouldn't describe it as being hostile. I mean, I think there have been some shifts. Of course, you mentioned the ICC decision and also the UNRWA decision as well, certainly compared to Conservative Party. But I would say even if you look at the Conservative Party and its history and record on Israel, in 2014, David Cameron's government drew up a list of weapons that would be being used by Israel at the time in Gaza and said that it wouldn't actually be supplying them if the conflict continued. So I don't think it's a major shift that we've seen. And I think really if you look at Keir Starmer's record, he wrestled the leadership of the Labour Party away from kind of Jeremy Corbyn, a far left figure who was kind of known for his anti-Israel policies. That was a core part of his persona. And if you look at really Keir Starmer's record, particularly since 7th of October, he has repeatedly reiterated Israel's right to self-defense. He has been very cautious in terms of his criticism of Israel. He has not used the kind of language in which many in his party have wanted him to. He's focused on issues of trying to get aid into Gaza rather than to do with issues of criticizing Israel's military. And he's also, been very supportive of when the UK participated in attempts to try to, knock down the Iranian projectiles that were fired from Iran just a few months ago. But look, the reality is that the Labour Party are on the left wing of British politics, and so you are going to see more internal opposition to Israel from within the government. But really what I would say is you're going to see a kind of emergence of a foreign policy that is supportive of Israel, but actually not supportive of the Netanyahu government. But again, you also have the UK supporting other ways of supporting its kind of continued policy. For example, it's maintained under Keir Starmer its kind of strikes against the Houthis. So overall, I think, the UK government still sees itself as quite supportive, but it doesn't see its kind of support as completely unconditional, particularly on issues relating to, let's say, this two-state solution. Mm-hmm.
And, we're almost out of time, but I just want to hear from you. How has this string of new measures affected Israel-UK relations, if at all?
I mean, the new British government has only been in place for about 3 weeks. So really, we haven't had any indications from diplomatic sources on either sides of any kind of major upset in relations. We know Foreign Secretary David Lammy visited Israel, I think, last week and met Netanyahu, which of course is a very positive thing. But look, Starmer and David Lammy did meet with Israeli ambassador to the UK, Hutaveli, throughout their time in opposition. And so certainly relations are not kind of starting from scratch at this point. But I think we are going to see relations come under quite a bit of strain. But I think, largely the kind of main issues of UK supporting Israel to do with its defence will largely remain intact. But I think where the UK government sees it can provide a kind of constructive role in terms of trying to encourage Israel to support a peace process, I think it won't be shy about doing that.
All right, Adam Schwarz, thank you so much for your analysis today.
Good to be with you.